The envelope was thinner than I expected. I remember that detail clearly, how light it felt in my hands, how ordinary. Just a standard white envelope with the university's crest pressed in deep blue at the top left corner. It didn't look like it carried the weight of my entire future. It didn't look like something that could change everything. My hands were shaking so much that the paper made a faint rattling sound. My mother stood across from me in the kitchen, pretending to wipe the same clean counter for the 5th time. My father had come home early from work, still in his faded blue mechanic's uniform, grease lining the edges of his fingernails. He tried to look calm, but his jaw was tight, the way it always was when he was nervous. "Open it, Ellie," my mother whispered. I slid my finger under the flap. The sound of tearing paper felt louder than it should have. My heart was beating in my throat, in my ears, everywhere at once. I unfolded the letter slowly. The words blurred at first. I blinked hard, swallowing. "Congratulations." That word stood at the top like a sunrise. "You've been awarded a full academic scholarship." I didn't realize. I had stopped breathing until the air rushed back into my lungs in a shaky gasp. My vision blurred again, but this time from tears. "I got it," I whispered. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father blinked once, then twice, and I saw something I had never seen before. His eyes were glossy. "You got it?" he asked softly. I nodded, and that was it. My mother wrapped her arms around me so tightly I could barely breathe. I could smell her lavender, detergent, and the faint scent of onions from dinner clinging to her sweater. My father joined the hug, his rough hands warm and solid on my back. "We're so proud of you," he murmured into my hair. And for the first time in my life, I felt like the world had opened. That night, we didn't eat at the kitchen table like we usually did. We sat on the living room floor with pizza boxes between us, laughing too loudly at everything. My father kept reading the scholarship letter over and over, as if it might disappear if he didn't confirm it was real. "You're going to be someone," he said quietly later, when the laughter had softened. I leaned my head against his shoulder. "I already am someone." He smiled at that, but we both knew what he meant. I was going to leave our small town, the cracked sidewalks, the grocery store where everyone knew my name, the bus stop where I had waited every morning since I was 12. I was going somewhere bigger, somewhere with tall buildings, and libraries and professors, whose names appeared in textbooks. I was going to become the kind of woman I had only read about. The campus smelled like fresh grass and possibility. That's the only way I can describe it. When my parents dropped me off, the late summer sun was warm but not harsh. The buildings were older than I expected. Stone walls covered in ivy, tall windows that reflected the sky like mirrors. Students walked past carrying boxes, laughing nervously, hugging their parents goodbye. I stepped out of the car and the air felt different. Lighter, bigger. "You call us every night," my mother insisted, smoothing down my hair like I was still 10. "I will," I promised. My father pulled my suitcase out of the trunk. "Show them what you're made of, Ellie." I nodded even though my throat was tight. When their car disappeared down the road, I stood there for a moment with my suitcase beside me. The campus stretched wide in every direction. A fountain sparkled in the center courtyard. Somewhere nearby, someone was playing music softly from an open window. This was mine now. My dorm room was on the 3rd floor of the women's hostel. The hallway smelled faintly of cleaning spray and new paint. Doors were propped open as girls moved in, voices echoing, laughter bouncing off the walls. "Room 317. I pushed the door open carefully. A girl with curly brown hair was kneeling on one of the beds, trying to hang fairy lights across the wall. She turned when she heard me and nearly fell. "Oh my God, hi!" "You must be Ellie." I blinked. "Yes?" She jumped down and grinned, holding out her hand dramatically. "I'm Maya, your roommate. I already claimed the left closet, but you can totally have the bigger desk." I laughed, really laughed, the nervousness melting instantly. "That's fair," I said. Within an hour, we were sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes, sharing stories like we had known each other for years. She was from a city 3 hours away. She wanted to study journalism. She talked fast, like her thoughts couldn't wait to come out. "And you got a scholarship?" she asked, eyes wide. "That's amazing." I shrugged, embarrassed but proud. "Yeah, I guess I studied a lot." "Okay, humble queen," she teased. By evening, our room looked lived in. Fairy lights glowed softly above our beds. My books were stacked neatly on my desk. Through the open window, I could hear distant laughter and the rustle of trees. That night, Lying in my new bed, I stared at the ceiling. The sheets felt unfamiliar. The mattress was firmer than the one at home. But beneath the strangeness was excitement, electric and steady. This was the beginning. I first saw Professor Jonathan during orientation week. The auditorium was massive, rows of wooden seats curving upward toward a high ceiling painted with delicate gold patterns. Students filled the room, murmuring, shifting, waiting. Maya leaned toward me. "That's him," she whispered. He walked onto the stage without notes. Sir Jonathan. Even before he spoke, there was something steady about him. He wasn't flashy or loud. He stood calmly at the podium, adjusted the microphone slightly, and looked out at us. Really looked at us, as if he could see each face individually. "Welcome," he began, his voice smooth and confident, carrying easily across the room. The murmurs stopped immediately. He spoke about responsibility, about opportunity, about the rare privilege of education. He didn't read from slides. He told stories about former students who had gone on to change industries, to lead research teams, to start foundations. "You are not here by accident," he said at one point, his gaze sweeping across the audience. "Each of you earned your place." My chest tightened. Earned. I thought about the late nights at the kitchen table, the stacks of flashcards, the way my father would tiptoe past my room when the light was still on at 2 a.m. "You will be challenged here," he continued. "You will doubt yourselves. But doubt is not proof of inability. It is proof that you are growing." The room was silent, the kind of silence that feels full, not empty. I felt seen. After the lecture, students crowded near the stage to introduce themselves. I hesitated, but Maya nudged me. "Go," she whispered. Scholarship girl energy. I walked down the aisle, heart pounding, and waited my turn. When I finally stood in front of him, he smiled warmly. "Yes? I just wanted to say thank you," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "Your lecture. It meant a lot. And your name?" "Ellie." He nodded thoughtfully. "Ellie, I hope to see great things from you." The words wrapped around me like sunlight. "Thank you, sir." As I walked back to Maya, my steps felt lighter. I couldn't stop smiling. "I think I just met my favorite professor," I whispered. She grinned. "Already?" "I just have a feeling," I said. That night, back in our room, I opened my laptop and typed my goals into a new document. Graduate with honors, lead a research project, make my parents proud, become independent. I added one more line before closing it. Learn from the best. Outside our window, the campus hummed softly. Footsteps on gravel paths, distant conversations, the faint splash of the fountain. I lay back on my pillow, staring at the fairy lights glowing above me, and imagined the woman I would become. Confident, strong, successful. I didn't know then how much I would need those dreams. But in that moment, everything felt bright, and I fell asleep believing I was exactly where I was meant to be. The shift didn't happen all at once. If it had, maybe I would have recognized it. Maybe I would have trusted the tightness in my chest sooner. At first, it felt like a reward. It began with an email. I was sitting at my desk one afternoon, sunlight still warm against the window. Maya humming softly as she painted her nails on her bed. My laptop chimed, a new message. From Professor Jonathan. Subject, research potential. My pulse fluttered with excitement. He wrote that he had noticed my engagement in lectures, that my analytical paper from week 2 had depth uncommon in first year. Students, he invited me to his office for a brief discussion about maximizing scholarship. Opportunities. I reread the email 3 times. Maximizing scholarship opportunities. It felt like the universe leaning toward me. When I knocked on his office door the next day, my palms were slightly damp. His office smelled faintly of old books and something woody. Cologne, maybe. The walls were lined with framed degrees and photos from conferences around the world. He stood when I entered. "Ellie," he said warmly. "I'm glad you came." I sat across from him, my notebook balanced neatly on my lap. He spoke about academic pathways, research grants, future internships. His voice was calm, reassuring. He said I had potential that shouldn't be wasted, that with the right guidance, I could graduate at the top of my class. No one had ever said things like that to me before. When I left his office, I felt taller somehow. I told Maya everything that night. "He's mentoring you already?" she said, impressed. "Okay, academic icon." I smiled, but something about the meeting replayed in my mind longer than I expected. The way he had leaned slightly forward in his chair, the way his eyes had held mine just a fraction too long after I answered a question. I brushed it away. He's just invested, I told myself. That's what good professors do. The extra meetings became regular. Just 10 minutes, he would say after class. I'd like to review something with you. 10 minutes turned into 30, then an hour. His office door would click shut behind me with a soft but unmistakable finality. The hallway sounds, footsteps, distant laughter would fade, replaced by the quiet hum of the overhead light. He would sit closer now, not across the desk, but beside me when reviewing papers. I could feel the warmth of his shoulder near mine. The subtle shift of air when he leaned in. You're exceptionally mature for your age, he told me once, his voice lower than usual. I laughed awkwardly. I just study a lot. He smiled but didn't respond. His gaze lingered on my face, not my notes. The compliments changed slowly. They drifted from academic to personal without a clear dividing line. You carry yourself confidently. You have a very expressive smile. You're different from the others. Different. The word echoed longer than it should have. I began scheduling my days around his emails. If he asked me to come by, I went. My scholarship depended on faculty evaluations. I knew that. He knew that. It still felt like opportunity, but the air in his office had started to feel heavier. The library incident was small. So small that if I described it plainly, it might sound insignificant. We were in a quiet corner on the second floor, surrounded by tall shelves. Rain tapped softly against the windows, blurring the world outside. The lights were dimmer there, casting long shadows between the rows. He had offered to help me locate a reference book for my research paper. Ah, he murmured, sliding a thick volume from the shelf. This is the one. He handed it to me. Our fingers touched. That was normal, accidental, nothing. But his hand didn't move away. It rested over mine, warm and deliberate. 1 second, 2, 3. A strange current shot through me. Not the kind people write about in romance novels. Not butterflies. Not warmth. It was sharper, like touching a live wire. My stomach dropped. My heart began to pound so loudly I could hear it in my ears. The sound of rain grew distant. The space between us felt suddenly too small. He was looking at me, not at the book, at me. His thumb shifted slightly against my skin. I pulled my hand back so quickly the book nearly slipped from my grasp. Sorry, I said automatically, even though I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for. He smiled, slow and calm. No need. My pulse refused to slow down. We sat at a table afterward, reviewing passages, but I couldn't focus. My hands felt cold. I kept rubbing my palms against my jeans under the table. It was nothing, I told myself. You're being dramatic. Teachers help students. Hands touch accidentally. That's normal. When I returned to the hostel that evening, Maya asked why I looked pale. Just tired, I said. I didn't mention the electric jolt that still seemed to linger in my skin. I began noticing his eyes during lectures. At first it felt flattering. He would pause mid-sentence, scanning the room, and his gaze would settle on me. Not briefly, like he was checking for understanding. Longer, too long. The first time I caught it, I looked behind me, thinking maybe he was looking at someone else, but there was only an empty row. His eyes didn't shift when mine met his. The rest of the class blurred around the edges. The scratch of pens on paper, the shuffle of notebooks, it all faded beneath the weight of that stare. I dropped my gaze quickly, heat creeping up my neck. He's just engaging with you, I reasoned. You sit in the front row. Of course he looks at you. But the next lecture, it happened again and again. Sometimes his expression was unreadable. Other times there was something in it I couldn't name. Something assessing. Not a teacher evaluating an answer. Something else. I started sitting one seat over, then two. It didn't change anything. His eyes always found me. The messages started at night. At first, they were about assignments. Have you considered expanding your thesis statement? Your latest draft shows promise. I'd like to discuss it further. I responded politely, gratefully. Then the tone shifted. You seem distracted today. Everything all right? You look exhausted. Don't overwork yourself. That could still be concern. But one night, just after midnight, my phone lit up again. I hope you're not staying up too late. You need your beauty sleep. I stared at the screen. Beauty sleep. My throat felt tight. I didn't respond immediately. The typing bubble appeared anyway. You looked lovely in blue today. The room felt suddenly smaller. Maya was asleep, her breathing soft and even. The fairy lights above her bed glowed faintly. I locked my phone and set it face down. My heart was racing again. The same frantic rhythm from the library. He's just being nice. He's older. Maybe he doesn't realize how it sounds. Don't overthink. Don't ruin this. Because beneath the discomfort was something heavier. Fear. Not loud fear. Not screaming panic. A quiet, creeping awareness. He had influence over my academic future. Over recommendations. Over funding. My scholarship letter flashed in my mind. My parents' tearful smiles. If I misunderstood him, if I reacted poorly, what if he withdrew his support? What if he changed his evaluation? I told myself to stay calm, to stay polite, to stay professional. So I replied the next morning with a simple, "Thank you, sir. I'll review the thesis notes." Nothing more. But that night, as rain streaked down the window again, I lay awake long after Maya had fallen asleep. The campus no longer felt like a postcard. The sunlight that once warmed the stone buildings now seemed filtered through clouds. The evenings felt longer. The shadows stretched farther across the courtyard. And sometimes, when I walked back from late study sessions, I had the strange sensation of being watched. I would turn quickly. No one would be there. I began carrying my phone in my hand at all times. The night of the annual college party was supposed to feel magical. By sunset, the campus had transformed. Strings of neon lights wrapped around trees, casting pink and electric blue glows across the courtyard. Music pulsed from giant speakers near the main lawn, bass heavy enough to vibrate through the pavement. Laughter spilled through open windows. Glittering dresses, sharp suits, perfume thick in the air. Maya stood in front of the mirror in our room, adjusting her earrings. "You're coming, right?" she asked. I nodded, smoothing down my dark blue dress, the same shade he had once commented on. My stomach tightened at the thought. "It's just one night," Maya insisted, smiling at me through the mirror. "No assignments. No stress, just dancing." I forced a smile back. Outside, the air buzzed with excitement. The scent of fresh grass mixed with sugary drinks and someone's floral perfume. Students posed for pictures under the glowing lights. Groups clustered together, shouting over the music. But even in the middle of all that noise, I felt something pressing against my ribs. A weight. I tried to lose myself in it. Maya dragged me toward the dance area. The lights flashed in dizzying patterns. The music thudded against my chest, matching the rhythm of my pulse. For a moment, just a brief, fragile moment, I let myself laugh. Then I felt it. That sensation, like cold fingers sliding down my spine. I turned. Across the lawn near the faculty seating area he stood. Sir Jonathan. He wasn't dancing. He wasn't speaking. He was simply watching. The neon lights flickered over his face, casting shadows that deepened his expression. His gaze locked onto mine instantly, as if he had been waiting for me to look. The crowd blurred. The music dulled. He smiled. Not the warm, reassuring smile from orientation. Something else. I looked away quickly, my mouth dry. Don't overreact. He's just here like everyone else. Maya grabbed my hands, pulling me back into the rhythm of the music. I nodded along, pretending the chill under my skin wasn't spreading. I needed air. "I'll be back," I shouted to her. I slipped away from the crowd, weaving through laughing groups toward the hostel building. The hallway lights inside felt calmer, softer than the chaos outside. The music was still audible, but muffled now. Distant bass thumps through concrete walls. I leaned against the corridor wall, inhaling slowly. That's when I heard his voice. "Ellie." It was low, controlled. I straightened immediately. He stood at the end of the hallway, hands clasped loosely in front of him. "Sir," I said, forcing steadiness into my tone. "I've been looking for you." My throat tightened. "There's an urgent issue?" "With your scholarship documentation," he continued smoothly. "A discrepancy in your funding approval forms. It came up this evening." My heart dropped. "What kind of discrepancy?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "A signature error. If it isn't corrected tonight, the funding review board could suspend your grant tomorrow morning." The word suspend echoed like a gunshot in my head. "That can't be right," I whispered. "I wish it weren't," he replied. "But bureaucracy can be unforgiving." The party music swelled briefly as someone opened a nearby door, then faded again. "We need to fix it immediately," he said. "The staff office is open. 5 minutes. You sign the correction and it's resolved." My thoughts raced. Scholarship suspended. Funding review. My parents' faces flashed before me. "If we wait until Monday," I began. "It won't wait," he interrupted gently but firmly. "Trust me." "Trust me." The words felt heavy. He turned slightly toward the administrative wing. "Come." My legs felt like they were moving through thick water as I followed him. Each step echoed faintly against the corridor tiles. The music grew softer with every turn we took down the dimly lit hallway. By the time we reached the staff room, the party might as well have been miles away. He opened the door and gestured for me to enter. The room was dark except for a desk lamp casting a narrow, yellow glow across scattered papers. The air smelled stale, closed windows and old carpet. I hesitated for half a second. "Quickly," he urged. "We don't have time." I stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind me. Then came the sound. A lock turning, the small metallic slide of it. My body went rigid. "Sir?" I asked, my voice barely audible. He didn't answer immediately. When I turned around, his expression had changed completely. The softness was gone. No warmth, no mentorship. Only calculation. "There's no discrepancy, is there?" I whispered. He exhaled slowly, as if relieved that pretense was no longer necessary. "You're intelligent," he said. "I appreciate that." My heart began pounding so violently I thought I might faint. "You have extraordinary potential, Ellie," he continued, stepping closer. "I can shape your future. Ensure you graduate at the top. Open doors for you that would otherwise remain locked." I backed up instinctively until the edge of the desk pressed against my thighs. "I don't understand," I managed. His smile returned, thin and cold. "Be mine," he said quietly, "and I will make you a topper." The room seemed to tilt. "And if I refuse?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my effort to steady it. His eyes darkened. "Then you return to where you came from." The words struck harder than any slap. "Back to poverty," he added softly. "Scholarships are fragile things." The desk lamp buzzed faintly. My palms were slick with sweat. "You can't," I started. "I can," he interrupted. "My evaluation carries weight. My recommendations matter. I can elevate you or erase you." He stepped closer again. I could smell his cologne now, sharp, suffocating. "Sir, please," I whispered, trying to move sideways. But his arm shot out, blocking me. His hand grabbed my wrist. The contact burned. I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. "Don't make this difficult," he murmured. My heartbeat roared in my ears, drowning out the faint echo of music outside. I could feel it in my throat, in my temples, everywhere at once. This isn't real. This can't be real. The man who stood on stage telling us we were earned. That doubt meant growth. That man was gone. In his place stood something hollow. "I trusted you," I choked out. He laughed quietly. "Trust is useful." His other hand moved toward my waist. That snapped something inside me. A surge of panic and sharp and electric shot through my limbs. "No!" I shouted, the word ripping from my throat. I twisted my wrist violently. Pain flared, but his grip loosened for half a second. "Enough!" I shoved him with both hands. He stumbled back slightly, more surprised than hurt. I lunged for the door. It was locked. My fingers fumbled against the handle, slippery with sweat. Behind me, I heard his shoes scraping against the floor. "Ellie!" he warned. The music outside thudded faintly through the walls. Laughter. Bass. Celebration. So close. I could almost taste freedom. His hand grabbed my shoulder, spinning me around. "Stop this!" he hissed. I didn't think. I raised my knee with every ounce of strength in my body and drove it forward. He gasped, staggering back. The lock. My shaking fingers found it, twisted it, yanked the door open. The hallway light flooded in. I ran. My heels pounded against the tiles. My vision blurred with tears. The music grew louder with every step until it crashed over me like a wave as I burst back into the courtyard. The lights were blinding, the laughter deafening. No one noticed. No one knew. I didn't stop running until I reached the hostel stairs. My lungs burned. My chest felt like it might explode. Up 3 flights, into our room. I slammed the door shut and collapsed against it, sliding down to the floor. Maya wasn't back yet. The fairy lights glowed softly above me. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. My wrist throbbed where he had gripped it. I could still feel the imprint of his fingers on my skin. Outside, the party raged on. Inside, something inside me had shattered. The hero I had admired, the mentor I had trusted. He was never there. And I realized, with a cold clarity that settled deep in my bones, I had just escaped a monster. I didn't sleep that night. After I slammed the hostel door behind me and slid down against it, my entire body kept trembling long after the danger had passed. My wrist throbbed where his fingers had dug into my skin. I kept rubbing it, as if I could erase the memory through friction. The music outside continued for hours. Laughter, cheers, bass, vibrating through the walls. I sat on the floor in silence. At some point, Maya stumbled in, glitter smeared near her eye, heels in her hand. She froze when she saw me. "Ellie, what happened?" My throat felt like it was lined with sandpaper. The words came out broken, disjointed. She knelt in front of me, her hands gripping mine. As I spoke, her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, to something sharp and furious. "He locked the door?" she whispered. I nodded. "And he threatened your scholarship?" Another nod. For a moment, I saw something in her face that mirrored what had finally solidified inside me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't overthinking. This was deliberate, calculated, predatory. A strange clarity cut through the fog in my head. He thought I would run. He thought I would hide. He thought my fear of losing everything would silence me. My hand stopped shaking. "I'm not going home," I said quietly. Maya blinked. "What?" "I'm not quitting. I'm not disappearing." My heart was still racing, but now it felt different. Not panic. Adrenaline. He had threatened my future like it was something he owned. He was wrong. The first thing I did was unlock my phone. My fingers hovered over his message thread. The late-night comments. The compliments. The beauty sleep. The "you looked lovely in blue." I scrolled further. There were more than I remembered. A pattern. A shift in tone. A slow escalation. Maya leaned closer. "We need proof," she said. I know. My mind replayed every second in that room. I hadn't recorded it. I hadn't expected... Wait. My phone. When he grabbed my wrist, I had dropped it. But I had unlocked it earlier. My stomach twisted. I opened the voice memo app. There it was. A 3-minute accidental recording. My hand must have hit record when I fumbled with the screen. My breath caught as I pressed play. At first, only muffled fabric sounds. Shuffling. Then his voice. Clear. "Be mine and I will make you a topper." The room felt like it was spinning again. But this time, not from fear, from vindication. His words echoed through the tiny speaker. "Refuse me and you return to where you came from." Back to poverty. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. "That's it," she whispered. "That's everything." The adrenaline surged so hard through my veins I felt almost lightheaded. He had handed me the weapon. We didn't wait until morning. The party was still raging downstairs. The main hall had a projection screen playing a slideshow of photos from the year. Smiling faces, achievements, faculty highlights. Including him. Sir Jonathan. Maya looked at me carefully. "Are you sure?" I thought about my parents. About the scholarship letter. About the way he had smiled while threatening to erase my life. "Yes," I said. We walked downstairs together. My legs felt strangely steady now. Each step was deliberate. The music was deafening as we entered the hall. Colored lights flashed across dancing bodies. The projector illuminated the stage area. He was there, standing near a group of faculty members, holding a glass, laughing. The sight of him didn't freeze me this time. It hardened me. Maya squeezed my hand and slipped toward the tech booth, her journalism instincts already in motion. She spoke quickly to the student managing the projector, gesturing toward my phone. Confusion, resistance, then recognition in his eyes as he listened. Within seconds, the slideshow paused. The screen went black. The music faltered slightly. "What's happening?" someone shouted playfully. Then the audio began. His voice filled the hall. "Be mine and I will make you a topper." The bass dropped into silence. Every head turned toward the screen. "Refuse me and you return to where you came from." Back to poverty. A ripple of shock moved through the crowd like wind through tall grass. Someone gasped. Someone else said, "Is that..." The spotlight near the stage caught his face. For the first time I saw it. Not authority, not composure, panic. His eyes darted around the room. His mouth opened as if to speak, but no words came. The recording continued. The scrape of shoes, his low hissed warning, then silence. The hall stood frozen. I stepped forward. My voice trembled at first, but I forced it steady. "That happened tonight," I said. "In the staff room." All eyes shifted between us. "You locked the door," I continued, looking directly at him. "You threatened my scholarship." A faculty member near him took a step back. "That's taken out of context." He snapped suddenly, his polished demeanor cracking. "This is absurd. She's misunderstanding." The student tech manager raised his phone. "I've already sent it to the principal," he said loudly. More phones appeared in the air. Recording. Capturing. His power was evaporating in real time. "I was mentoring her," he insisted, his voice rising. "This is defamation." "Then explain the lock," Maya called out from beside me. The room was no longer festive. It was charged. Within minutes, security entered. Then the principal. The principal's face was pale as he listened to the recording again. "Sir Jonathan," he said slowly, "is there any explanation that justifies this language?" Silence. For the first time, he looked small. The police arrived faster than I expected. When they stepped forward with handcuffs, a murmur swept through the crowd. "You can't do this," he whispered hoarsely. But they could. They did. The metallic click of the cuffs closing around his wrists echoed, louder than the music ever had. He looked at me as they turned him toward the exit. There was no charm left in his eyes. No authority, only defeat. Students filmed as he was led away through the courtyard, past the neon lights, past the fountain, past the place where he had once stood so confidently. The mask had fallen, and everyone had seen what was underneath. The investigation that followed was long, exhausting. I gave statements, replayed the recording more times than I wanted to. Other girls came forward quietly, then more boldly. Patterns emerged. Emails, comments, meetings behind closed doors. The administration suspended him immediately. His tenure was revoked pending the criminal case. My scholarship was not only protected, it was formally reaffirmed in writing. The principal apologized publicly. I didn't feel victorious at first. I felt drained. But something inside me had shifted permanently. I no longer walked across campus scanning for his gaze. I no longer flinched at late-night notifications. The air felt lighter again. One morning, weeks later, I stood alone in the courtyard at sunrise. The sky was painted in soft pink and gold. The grass was still damp with dew. Students passed by, some smiling at me gently. Word had spread. Not as gossip, as respect. I inhaled deeply. For the first time since that night, my chest didn't feel tight. I wasn't the girl who almost lost everything. I was the girl who refused to. If you're listening to me now, I need you to hear this clearly. Consent is not negotiable. Authority is not ownership. No professor, no boss. No mentor has the right to hold your dreams hostage in exchange for your body. If someone ever tells you that your future depends on silence, they are lying. Your future depends on courage. Yes, speaking up is terrifying. Yes, you might shake. Your voice might crack. Your hands might tremble. Mine did. But predators survive in shadows. And the moment you drag them into light, their power collapses. I almost let fear send me home. I almost believed that his influence was stronger than my truth. It wasn't. Your dreams are not currency. Your ambition is not an invitation. And anyone who tries to make you choose between success and self-respect deserves to fall. I stand here now, scholarship intact, head high, not because I wasn't scared, but because I was, and I fought anyway. I am not his victim. I am a survivor, and no one will ever use my dreams against me again.